Hi, I'm Martin, and in this tutorial I'm gonna show you how to create this material that you can blend your assets with your landscape using runtime virtual texture. So you can change the contrast of the normals, you can change the sharpness of the normals, you can change the height from down to top, and you can also change the fall off, and you can also change the color of the rock. And if you have never used runtime virtual texture, I suggest you to watch my latest video. So let's create a new folder, and we're gonna start by importing the rock mesh. I have downloaded this rock from Pixelgrapher on Sketchfab. You can also import your own rock. And before we do anything, I want you to go to your runtime virtual texture and choose the base color normal roughness specular instead of base color and increase the size. Okay, so I have imported all of my textures with the mesh. So I'm going to create a new material. I'm gonna create an instance and plug the instance to the rock mesh. So I'm gonna open the material and bring the textures to the material and plug them all to the rock material. Now just pull the rock to the viewport so you can see it. Okay, so we're gonna need to create a new runtime virtual texture. And this is going to be runtime virtual texture height. We're gonna open it. I'm gonna scale the resolution and change this to the world height. We're gonna need to create new runtime virtual texture volume. So just pull it out to the world. We're gonna call it runtime virtual texture height. We're gonna select our landscape. And in virtual texture, we're gonna select runtime virtual texture height. And we're gonna set bounds. Now we're gonna need to go to our landscape material. And we're gonna need to add in world position and mask the Z value. So just select the B, which is the Z value, and plug it to the world height. And in our rock material, we're gonna find runtime virtual texture output. And we're gonna plug all of these textures except for ambient occlusion to the runtime virtual texture. And as the same we did in our landscape material, we're gonna add in world position. And we're gonna also mask the Z value and plug it to the world height. So now we're gonna create the material blend, and instead of doing it here, we're gonna create a new material function. And if you've never done a material function, you don't need to be scared of it. Material function is just like a box full of nodes. For example, in our grass material, you can see we have here simple grass vine, and if we double click on it, you can see that is another bunch of nodes, and this is what is the material function. It's good if you want to reuse the node and if you want to save the space. So I'm going to call it runtime virtual texture blend, and I'm going to open it. So you can see that we have here just one single output, and I'm gonna rename it to the base color. So this is going to be base color output from the node, from the function. So we're gonna need to bring our textures, so create runtime virtual texture sample, and we're gonna choose here our runtime virtual texture, select this to the base color normal roughness specular, and we're gonna add make material attributes, so we can get our base color, specular, roughness and normal. So these are the textures from runtime virtual texture, and we're gonna need to create an input for these three textures. So we're gonna just add a function input. So we're gonna call it base color. We're gonna copy it 2 more times, and we're gonna call this roughness, and this is going to be normal. Okay, so we're gonna add make material attributes again, and we're gonna plug this in, and we're gonna blend these two together with the blend material attributes. So we're gonna connect these two, and now we're gonna add break material attributes. And as you can see, we have three inputs here: base color, roughness, normal. So we're gonna need to create two more outputs, one for the roughness and one for the normal. So search for output, and we're gonna add function output. We're gonna call it roughness. We're gonna copy it and call this one normal. And we're gonna plug the base color to the base color, roughness to roughness, and normal to normal. Okay, so now we're gonna create the blend itself. So find runtime virtual texture sample, and we're gonna select our runtime virtual texture height, and be sure that you have selected world height, and we're gonna mask the Z value. And now we're gonna subtract these two with the world height, and we're gonna add these two together, and we're gonna multiply with the constant, and this is going to be the height blend, and we're gonna subtract again. We're gonna put the multiply to the B because we don't want to have it inverted, And if we plug this to the alpha and apply this, we're gonna also need to move this function into our rock material and plug the materials correctly. Okay, and now if we go to our viewport and open our instance, and as you can see, we have created the slider that we can control the height of the blend. So if we just go to our function and add the saturate node and plug this to the alpha, we're gonna have this in our normal colors. And you can also see that this green is not the exactly same as the green that we have in our landscape. And that is because we're gonna need to set our specular to 0. And now we have normal green. And it also works if I pull it to my dirt material. Okay, so now we're gonna create the fall off. So we're just gonna add a divide and a constant, and this is going to be the fall off. So plug the divide to saturate node. Now if we open our instant, we can control the fall off, and it works with the height. Okay, so now we're gonna create the blend on tops of the rock using normals. And we're gonna add vertex normal world space. And what this node does, we go to the buffer visualization and choose world normal. We can now see the normals of the world. And if we're gonna mask the B, which is the blue color, and also the Z value, we're gonna take just the Z value from the normals, which is the top. So now we're gonna multiply this with the constant, and this constant is going to be normal sharpness. We're also gonna need to saturate it. And if we plug this to the alpha, you can see that we're gonna have what we want, just inverted. So we're gonna go back, so add an 1 minus node. And what this node does, it just inverts. So now we have our tops blending with our landscape, and we can control the sharpness of it. But we also want to control the contrast. So we're gonna add a power node, and we're gonna add a constant and convert this, and this is going to be normal contrast. And we're gonna plug this in, and we're gonna add and multiply, and we're gonna multiply these two together, and we're gonna plug the multiply to alpha. So we have our normal blend and the blend from the bottom. And if you want to change the color of the rock, we can go in our rock material and add a color. We're gonna convert it parameter. We're gonna add an lerp node, and we're gonna lerp this with the base color, and be sure that your alpha is on 0.5, and we're gonna plug this into our base color in runtime virtual texture output, and also to our blend function base color. And now we have the color that we want on our rock. And so make this prettier, I can take my grass, change the size of the grass, so I made it smaller, and I can paint it on the rock. Okay, so we have our rock material done, and if this was helpful and you wanna see more, subscribe, and I'm going to see you later. Bye bye.